Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Grand Slam Wrestling Match of the Week. We are up to week 12 in year number 4, and tonight we head down Mexico way, Mexico City, for another defense by Dory Funk Jr. against the Mexican grappling masked legend El Canek. And hello, everybody. Big Paulie coming to you this very fine Monday, March 15th. I will make a programming note right here and now that our next match of the week will actually be the entire Grapplefest card coming from the Kingdome in Seattle, Washington, with stars from the Portland and Calgary regions going for some serious gold. And we'll see we'll go through the entire card before we depart on week number 12, because we still have the matter of who will be world champion going into Grapplefest. It'll either be Dory Funk Jr., who has now been the World Heavyweight Champion for 5 weeks in GSW, or it will be El Canek. He is one of the only men, a few men, if you've ever seen the YouTube video, to ever slam Andre the Giant, and I think he did it on at least a couple of occasions. More people have done it than the wrestling public would allow you to believe or would lead you to believe. Quite a few people have done it. Stan Hansen, Hulk Hogan, the Wild Samoans. It wasn't just Hulk. It's been a few people. I saw Harley Race do it. Harley Race do it on an episode of the late 70s of Championship Wrestling from Florida. That they did a card from Al Lopez Field, which is right next to Tampa Stadium back in the day. Al Lopez, of course, lived to see his ballpark torn down. Raid manager for the Chicago White Sox back in the day. And they did a card one night, a summer night from the ballpark, the minor league ballpark of the Cincinnati Reds and the Tampa Tarpons of the Florida State League, and they had film of it the week after it happened. So I know Harley did it on at least a couple of occasions, including once in Tampa. So this should be an interesting match. The winner will get Danny Hodge in Seattle at Grapplefest IV. So now, through the magic of OBS and a few other programs that you could get and do what I do. We'll go through the championship roll call. I don't believe anything has changed in the past week. We do have a couple of brand new champions to tell you about from the card in Tokyo recently. Koji Kanemoto surprised everybody and defeated 22 other competitors, including Hulk Hogan and Antonio Inoki, to win the Pacific Championship in a Battle Royal. Also decided in a Battle Royal was the Pacific Tag Team Championship, and that was won by Mitsuya Misawa and Toshiaki Kawada, who in Japan is a babyface, but in Portland he's a heel. So on to our championship matches, or championship match, as I again having a little technical problem. Now it has been fixed, and we will show you what has happened on the card. As you see, I was just putting the little last pieces of the championship match together, and we will set the trading holds here. Ropes doesn't count, so we will not do that, and it'll be Funk against El Canek for the gold. But we'll go through the card that has already taken place at Mexico City. We had a couple of men making their debuts in the undercard. El Hijo del Santo went up against Big John Studd, and Hijo prevailed. Hijo del Santo wins by DQ when Al Perez interfered with him. And not even Big John Studd was amused at all of that. So Al Perez faced the other fellow who debuted tonight. That was Blue Demon, and Blue Demon, another masked legend in Mexico. He wins by pin at 2:37, so Al Perez could be out of the territory. He goes to the free agency, and he could be picked up in a draft that we do every week amongst the presently the 17 territories. Might be 18 by the time we get through the first quarter of the year, as Dallas now looking like the odds-on favorite to join the list of territories, and that's where Eddie Gilbert is providing his financial backing. There were rumors that he might be setting up in Shreveport or in New Orleans or in Birmingham or in Knoxville, but it looks like Dallas will be the destination for the new territory. As things stand right now, In the third bout, it was Ted Cox losing to Kenny Wayne, but Kenny Wayne paid for it. He sustained rib injuries after 5:24 of battle as Cox goes all ape on Wayne, and that will force both Wayne and his tag team that competes in Calgary, the Nightmares, weren't scheduled to be competing in Grapplefest IV, but they will be sitting out 4 weeks. Before intermission, we had Jackie Pallo, who some of you may recognize as being the British wrestler who was in the British sitcom of the 70s, Are You Being Served? Actually, Are You Being Served lasted until 1985, and they did a remake called Grace and Favor. Here in the United States, it was called Are You Being Served Again, and that lasted a couple of years in the 90s. Jackie Pallo and Jacques Rougeau, that is the junior Jacques Rougeau, they went to a double count out, 4 minutes. In the tag team bout, as we come back from intermission, Tony Garea and Larry Zbyszko over the Young Bucks. That match went 21-15. Garea and Zbyszko might be sending the Young Bucks packing. Of course, they're in the AEW now. Eddie Gilbert, boy, he's been on a losing streak as of late. He loses to Mystico 6 minutes, just past the 6-minute mark via countout. Gilbert was trying to find a weapon outside the ring, and that didn't go too well. And just before we took the air tonight, Dick Daviscourt defeats Mil Mascaras by countout in 28-33, so it will be Dick Daviscourt facing Ricky Morton at Grapplefest IV. Ricky Morton's a top 5 contender in the Calgary territory, and that brings us to our main event tonight, Dory Funk Jr. against El Canek. And you see here, Canek isn't going to face a tough task today, and I just think he's going to win. Funk should retain the title in this championship match. And I know you couldn't see part of that. One of these days I'm going to realize not to go tight in with the game screen until we get started with the match. And off we go. Funk with a kick, 5 points off of El Canek's stamina. So Canek came in at 69-4 stamina, and Junior at 75-4. Legal throat chop by the champ, but it was countered by El Canek. Disqualified check, but the Canek uses the arm holds. As champ, Dory is 4-0-1, and so far this year, El Canek is 2-0. I reset the standings or the won-loss records at the end of each year. El Canek an auto control loss, and that goes back to the Funker here. Whipped to the ropes by Junior, the champ. Auto control loss back to Canek. Canek loses control. Back to the champ. Legal throw by the champ. And that's 5 more points off for stamina. So a feel-out process, I guess you could say, here in the early going. The arm hold by Junior countered. Legal forearm, not an uppercut forearm, but just a legal forearm. And that's the first attempt by El Canek to pin Funk, but it does not stand. Canek countered. Pin hold by Funk. Could get an early pin here. He does! Wow! So the match already over. He went for a pin attempt and got it. An illegal pin attempt, backslide, and he had a handful of tights of El Canek, and that was good enough to be it. And Dory Funk Jr. retains the World Championship in just 4 minutes and 5 seconds. So very shortly we will go over the lineup for Grapplefest 4, because that will be our next stop. Funk picks up 3 rankings points for the win. And let's see here. Wins with a backslide with a tight pull. So the crowd not too happy with the champion, but that's why he's the champion. You got to be the dirtiest player in the game sometimes, and that's exactly how our champ has kept the title, I guess you could say. So I will show you in just a minute as I am updating. I'm not using the poster for this because there are going to be 12 matches on this Grapplefest card that we are about to show you. And if you would stand by, please, for just a moment, we were going to break down the card from start to finish at the Seattle Kingdom. Remember, this is part Calgary and part Portland, so we're going to have a few Calgary matches and a few Portland matches on the undercard. We start in Calgary with a couple of matches there to start the evening. It's going to be Stu Hart, the patriarch of the Hart family, going up against Dickie Murdoch in a grudge match. These two have been at each other for a little bit. It is Buddy Colt, rest in peace, as he just recently passed away a couple weeks ago. In real life, he's up against Macho Man Randy Savage. Then we go to the Portland part of the undercard. Toshiaki Kawada against an up-and-comer in Portland by the name of Dutch Savage. Roddy Piper will face Gene Kaniski. And then we get to our championship matches as we know them right now. And they are as follows. For the North American Tag Team titles, it'll be the Hart Foundation, currently the champs, although they have a match later this week. They will go up against the Hells Angels. Dick Daviscourt, we just saw him win. He will face Ricky Morton. Daviscourt comes in the champ. That's why I have a C next to the Road Warriors, who will face the Sheepherders for the international tag belts. Dick the Bruiser scheduled to face Mad Dog Vachon. Vachon and Bruiser got into it in a recent card in Calgary, so these two want a piece of each other once again. But Dick the Bruiser's got to get by Dr. Wagner in San Juan, which will be our next stop on the Delphi boards. And go visit the Delphi board. Just go Delphi Wrestling's Finest, and you'll probably find Grand Slam Wrestling there in the territories section. If you're curious and want to know more about the history of GSW, we've only been doing this about a little over half a year, but I have been running this Fed now this is the 4th year, and I actually did a few weeks in what I like to call year 0. We have the Bell of the Brawl final. We've had a 37-woman tournament. It's now down to 2, and those two are Jaguza Nagoyo and Mildred Burke. That will also be with the women's title at stake. So if Nagoyo scores a pin or a submission on Burke, she is the women's champion, and that will be a no DQ, no time limit match. They will keep going till the end of time until somebody wins the match. For the World Tag titles, it's Jay Youngblood and Ricky Steamboat. And I did not put Ricky Steamboat down. Hang on a moment. They will go up against the Blonde Bombers, who have been World Tag Team Champions before in GSW. You do not spell Steamboat with a Y, Polly. There we go. We'll fix that graphic. I always seem to do these episodes, and I always misspell a graphic or something, or misplace something on the graphics. So, once again, par for the course. For the World Junior Heavyweight Champion, it is Jerry Lawler at this point in time scheduled to face Jim Lundos, but Lawler is in London getting ready to defend his World Junior Heavyweight Champion against Gedeon Gita, the East German grappling star. So if Gita wins, it'll be Gita against Lundos. And our big match, the world title, Danny Hodge, who had a very long reign as Junior Heavyweight Champ in GSW to end out year 3, he will go up against Dory Funk Jr. So can Hodge be the man who stops Dory Funk? So I hope you enjoyed the card, everybody. Sorry the match was so short at just 4 minutes, but this is what happens sometimes in GSW. We've had that happen before. We had a match between Farmer Burns and Adrian Adonis for the championship only go 2 minutes. And I think we have had another match go about 2 minutes on GSW. So I hope everybody enjoyed this last main event, this world title defense before Grapplefest. And we will be back next week putting Grapplefest together. And hope you enjoy that as well. This has been Big Paulie coming to you. Wishing you well, everybody. Godspeed and God bless. We'll do it all again soon. Bye-bye for now.